Welcome to Rauta's worst to best video, an opinion video about a Norwegian kind of underground band, Obtained Enslavement. Now, I know that when I started this project to listen through the whole discography for a couple of times, I was about to enter the so-called, discomfort zone. Well, beyond comfort zone really, because back in the days when I heard the band for the first time, I didn't really get it clicking with my brain. And I was already back in the days much diving into the deep end of black metal, both in many countries as well as Norway, obviously. But Often Enslavement never kind of clicked to me. So why did I decided to go this band for another go? Why did I decided to give it a chance? Actually, got spawned by an idea, or rather conversation on Facebook with a couple of friends of mine who were just praising some of the early works by Obtain Enslavedment. And I was like, damn, I haven't been listening to that band for, I guess, more than 20 years now. And I know that really didn't click with me back in the days. But maybe it would now. Sometimes, albums mature more, better. Sometimes they sound worse later years. And this one is a curious case. Didn't exactly do neither for me. Some things I actually now understand better, and I kind of can, appreciate and respect that. But some parts are still like, why? Oh, why? Now, this is not going to be a very lengthy one because there are only 4 albums the band made between 1994 and 2000. What makes this band so interesting is that they are actually one of the earlier bands in terms of, starting already in the 80s. But like so many other bands coming from Norway and those days, they started as a death metal band. Which then again means that their black metal year was a little bit shorter than that. But nonetheless, they started with 1994 with Centuries of Sorrow, which had a little bit of those death metal roots still present. Especially if you go for the version where the demo material is present, and you will definitely hear the death metal part. But anyway, they did only 4 albums with this during 6 years or so, and then just call it a day. To be honest, I don't know why. In my opinion, the band was clearly progressing and evolving throughout those years, but something just happened and those guys were not present. Maybe one of the reasons were, I guess, that Pest being the vocalist of the band later on, joined Gorgoroth, which was of course a lot better and bigger band, more successful band, and I guess that kind of took at least some of the attention away. But that doesn't really explain what the other guys were doing. So I'm not gonna start guessing here. I don't have interviews read for this particular video. It goes beyond the scope of this one. But still, it's interesting that bands just quit it when Norwegian black metal golden era has already passed. I think we mostly can agree that Norwegian black metal was best during the early 1990s, not so much towards the new millennium and all that stuff. But the band only made 4 albums, and there's like 2 albums which are very, very similar to each other, and then the first one which is a little bit different, and also the last one which is definitely different. But how to put it in an order that would be honest by me, yours truly. It's very different than what a lot of people would say, I guess, but this is my opinion and I'm not gonna expect you to like it or agree with it. Obviously, this is more about talking how you should probably give the band a chance, because at least they did something very different. Now, in my opinion, the weakest one by the band is Centuries of Sorrow, the debut album, because it's kind of a mess. Now, staring at this Metal Archive screen is kind of funny because somebody has clearly given 100% to this album, which I feel like is more like 5 out of 10. Why so crappy, you might ask? And I am kind of bound to answer that question. First of all, it's much like a demo, but just in a form of full album. The production is quite horrible, even given during the time, the era of when things were just happening and blah blah blah. And of course, there wasn't big budget and all. Everything sounds like all over the place. It doesn't sound powerful. Doesn't sound majestic, which is in fact what the band was later on going for with the kind of a symphonic black metal and all. But the thing here is, it's much of a mess. Those death metal roots kind of still pestering the band, but the songwriting isn't good. I mean, this is very much a mediocrity. It's not a bad album, but it's mediocre at best. it doesn't really shine in any of the aspects the band has there to offer. And it's clear that the band was just kind of figuring out what to do after a couple of demos, but still. And I cannot justify going back to this album, I hope, ever again, because it's not good. It's just like kind of a drag show, really, with all those minor problems. Most importantly, the songwriting isn't good, and the kind of a, half-assed production doesn't really help it. Now, things didn't go much better a few years later when, in my opinion, the second least album, which is called Soul Blight, came out in 1998. This is actually a clear continuation, a sequel, if you will, to Witchcraft, the second album, 1997. But it seems like it's all over the place with this kind of a new style. It's all over like band got a new start with Witchcraft. Kind of a shedding its skin and becoming something different. Like suddenly it was like a band taking big step, at least in terms of songwriting and ideas. And that's when they kind of figured out they're not just like one of those everybody else bands. But with Soul Blight, this kind of a symphonic black metal, which was too much leaning, in my opinion, kind of a classical music, but not exactly having the skill set nor the production to totally execute it perfectly, is still, in my opinion, quite of a mediocrity when it comes to as a full album. There are moments when it seems kind of painful to listen to that, because those classic ideas, as much they are kind of nice on paper, like theoretically speaking and all that stuff, they don't make much of a sense when the songwriting is not that good and when the production is too weak for that. The drums are sometimes like, what the hell is going on? I mean, why? Why on earth would you do that? And it seems like there's way too often like, let's just add blast beat to everything. I mean, it's like speeding up things, even though the kind of a slowing down might have done a band a favor. That's just me saying it, but I think it's too much all over the place and kind of losing the kind of a thread what the band had figured out by Witchcraft. So in my opinion, Soul Blight is the second worst album by the band. And there it gets kind of an interesting turn. Now everybody, I guess, are expecting me to praise Witchcraft and saying they are the best, that is the best album by the band. But in fact, I have to disagree. Now that was, I guess, my first point when I heard the band for the first time. I would say late 1990s or maybe early 2000, something like that, roughly, give or take. Witchcraft is the one that started the kind of very symphonic classical music based black metal, and it could have been really good, but once again the production even on this still one is kind of a poor and powerless and lacking the kind of a majestic features which it should have, and that kind of ruins it for me. Now I get it, all these first three albums are like 99 or 100% to a lot of people, and I kind of understand it, even though I cannot agree with that. Let me put it this way. I like and respect that the band was trying to accomplish something really different. It's like they were trying to fix the problems Emperor had after Anthem's album. Like when Emperor was going all over the places and going crazy with their kind of a symphony black metal and becoming way too progressive and way too experimental and way too, well, just too big for their scales and skill sets and, vision and all that stuff. Like they were not able to execute it. And I really don't like post-Anthem Emperor. I mean, Ninth Equilibrium or EXE or Prometheus, they're not the kind of albums I like. And Witchcraft and Soul Blight pretty much fall in the same category. So maybe my taste of music is the problem, not the bands themselves. Maybe this is just meant for the kind of audience who likes that phase of Emperor the most. But for me, Witchcraft is basically a potential album to really nail it and like show the world like, hey, we got it. We got the production, we got the skills, we got the classical background and all that stuff, but it's not doing it for me. So once again, it's just decent album at max. Better than Soul Blight, better definitely than Centuries of Sorrow, but not a good one. And then when it gets interesting is that the least liked album by the band, The Shepherd and the Hounds of Hell, is in my opinion the best by Obtain Enslavement. Why so? Well, it's more easy to approach, it's more melodic. Now the production is also way better, and everything is more like, okay, now these guys finally got the pieces, figured it out, and made it their own. Now obviously it's a different style than Witchcraft and Soul Blight, guaranteed. Not everybody's going to like it for the rather obvious reasons. I mean, once you change the style too much and become kind of easier to approach, you lose a lot of that magic. But for me, it kind of happens vice versa. For me, The Shepherd and the Hounds of Hell is the best Obtain Enslaved album for the reasons that the band are actually now more focused on the good stuff, and though they have the production they should have had already with 2 previous albums. But this is not to say you shouldn't give it a chance. Even though I don't like any of these albums so much that I would like to have them in my personal CD or vinyl collection, I still think they have ideas and moments which you probably should give a chance, especially if you missed them in the late 90s or early 2000s, or just missed it. Anyway, at any point, that doesn't really matter when and where. It's an interesting band, and they should have and could have evolved from that. It's too kind of a shame that they kind of call it a day and vanished from the face of the earth after the 4th album. But it is what it is, and we cannot really change the past. Kind of a forgotten underground legend in a way, but in my opinion, they never had the good success coming because being too complicated, too avant-garde-ish, too classical, nodding, and all that stuff. Interesting and getting my respect, but when it comes to actually liking the album, not too much. So, being a negative Joe here, but this is my take on Obtain Enslavement by Worst to Best, also known as ranking the albums. Now, you go and listen to the stuff. You can find everything listed here on Spotify and probably other streaming services as well. So give it a go or give it not. But whenever you do, buckle your belts and expect some symphonic and melodic black metal. And there you have it. Take care and see you soon with more reviews and opinion videos coming your way.